Andy's cell phone rang, which was weird, even if it did sound more like a xylophone than approaching nuptials. She answered and put the call on speaker so Grace could listen. It was Gustavo Cruz, a homicide detective with the Miami-Dade Police Department. "We found the body," he said, and then quickly shared the coordinates. Andy checked the map on her cell phone. "That's outside the park." "Yes, well north of it." "The caller said the body was in the park," said Andy. "I'll note that in my report. Anonymous tipster sucks at geography. The point here is that it's outside FBI jurisdiction. We won't be needing your assistance." Turf wars between the FBI and local law enforcement were as old as the oolitic limestone that formed the Florida Keys. Andy was getting the sense that Detective Cruz had sent the feds on a proverbial wild flamingo chase as MDPD followed better leads to the actual disposal site. "I thought you were above these games, Gustavo." "No games. We got this," he said, and the call ended. "Jackass," said Andy as she put away her phone. "It's fine. Let MDPD have it," said Grace. Andy was not so easily blown off. The caller said, "in the park." If the murder was in the park, we still have jurisdiction, even if the body drifted somewhere else. Grace agreed. The outboard engine roared, the bow rose, and they were suddenly speeding across the glass-like waters, throwing a wake that sent flamingos scattering. Twilight was upon them as they motored away from the mainland and headed north into slightly choppier waters. Andy's long, dark hair whipped in the breeze as they sped past her favorite view of Miami's famous cityscape, which sparkled with one brightly lit high-rise after another. A fleet of Caribbean-bound cruise ships lined the port like floating hotels. To the east was Miami Beach, which, as Andy had learned only after her transfer from Seattle, was actually a barrier island between the bay and the Atlantic Ocean, the mainland's first defense to hurricanes and tropical storms. Their destination was beyond Venetian Islands, a chain of man-made islands that dotted the bay and connected the peninsula to Miami Beach like giant stepping stones straight out of Gulliver's Travels. "That way," Andy shouted over the noisy outboard. She was pointing to the flashing beacons from a circle of Marine Patrol boats ahead. Grace cut their speed to no wake as they approached the floating crime scene. An artificial island that never came to be, Isola di Lolando was supposed to be the next Venetian island, expanding the availability of pricey waterfront properties in the bay. The seawall for the planned island was under construction when the Great Miami Hurricane of 1926 made landfall and left only destruction in its wake. The market crash of 1929 and the Great Depression that followed sealed the project's fate, forever abandoned, leaving behind only the pilings, which were visible depending on the tide. "Bizarre," said Grace. It was low tide. Andy and her partner had a full view of a no longer submerged body, chained to a concrete piling. "Even by Miami standards," said Andy. Darkness had fallen, but the scene was amply lit by forensic lights from a nearby Marine Patrol boat. Beneath the surface, an underwater recovery team was at work, the sweep of their dive lights setting the submerged half of the piling aglow. Andy kept the FBI's boat on the perimeter so as not to interfere, but she was close enough to absorb key details. The body was wet but fully clothed. Caucasian male, probably in his 20s. Warm water hastened decomposition, making it harder to estimate a time of death. Even in the subtropics, however, it could take a week for the skin to peel away from underlying tissues and invite fish, crabs, and sea lice to nibble away at the flesh. Andy guessed it had been a day, at most 2, since the killer had put his work on display. Marine Patrol motored up beside Andy's boat and idled its engine. Detective Cruz was on board. At the risk of sounding defensive, Andy spoke first.